If you're following Drupal 7 and from a big picture, whatever, yourself, if you're following the big picture of Drupal 7 and trends for where development's going, that's what we're trying to latch onto and sort of demonstrate here with Commerce. So you can think of other distributions that simplify Drupal in general for magazine publishing or for music or for recording artist websites or whatever. So we're doing the same thing here with the Commerce modules. And then at the top, in order for Drupal to be the #1 e-commerce platform, if you need help, there have to be people that can help you when you need it. And so that's why Commerce Guys is aggressively recruiting partners and training people. And I'm in IRC every day, all day, to help people like Team Poop here learn how to use and integrate DrupalCommerce. Just had to shout out the username there. Because there need to be people that can help other people. And that's one of the reasons that UberCart really took e-commerce by storm whenever we were first released for Drupal 5 was that we had a separate domain with a separate form that was just totally dedicated to UberCart support. Whereas if you wanted e-commerce support, you either had to know how to use a Drupal issue tracker and learn how to be ignored in that, or you had to use just the general Drupal form, which is so broad that nobody that really knows the answer to your question was realistically going to find your question and answer it. So UberCart grew because we had a forum and a place where people could quickly get support, generally from myself, and then it sort of grew into this group of about 5 or 6 guys that were supporting people all day long. Well, now we're saying we're going to offer professional support with Commerce Guys and then equip our partners to do integration and to deliver professional services based on Commerce. And then I'm just going to be on IRC still, just hacking it out with other developers to make sure that everybody knows how to use this and how to develop for it. Because it's those experts that are going to fulfill that second level there, the second tier of application features in these essential contributor modules. So just really trying to grow things just like we did with UberCart, but grow things and retrain people at the same time to think less about an out-of-the-box, feature-rich experience and more about a tool set, a group of components and core systems and entities that you sort of mix and match into the e-commerce application you need. All right, how are we doing on time? We've got 30 minutes to go. Let's just skip to the end of this slide here. Drupal 7, if you haven't used it much, has this new system called the entity system. And I call it really the fieldable entity system. And if you want to think about it simply, just imagine CCK in core. But that extended to any other type of data object besides nodes. So you have CCK functionality in core, but that's reusable on users, that's reusable on comments, taxonomy, nodes, files, and then additionally, that same system is used to power your commerce products, line items, orders, customer profiles, and payment transactions. And so I have listed here just the 5 entities that we're defining in core right now with Drupal Commerce. And they each have some default properties. So a product, for example, will always have a SKU, a title, a product ID, and a price field that has both an amount and a currency code. And then you can add any additional fields to this that you need. So if you're selling t-shirts, you might make a t-shirt product type. Just like you could have multiple node types, you can have multiple product types. And this one would have a size field attached to it. And it might have an image field attached to it. Or say you're selling fabric and the same fabric comes in 3 different shades. Then you might have an image field that shows the color for each different version of that fabric, and then you can display on the front end, a selection list that will let people pick the product that they want and use this field data to change pictures, to change prices, to update different parts of the page. So that's products and price fields. Line items are anything on an order that's calculated into the price of the order or the order total. So an order then has a line item reference field on it that points to all these line items that make up that particular order. Those line items in turn are pointing to different products that have been added to the shopping cart and then become part of this order. And the order total then sort of aggregates the total prices from all these line items and stores that in the field on the order itself. So I feel like I'm just like unpacking this ball of yarn and just like throwing it at you all. It'll make a little more sense once I switch over to the demo site. But again, I'm sorry that we're short on time here. Customer profiles are where we track stuff like customer information for billing. You might have a separate profile tag for shipping information because the two might have different needs. If you're billing somebody, you might need to know what their nonprofit ID is if they need to get tax exempt status for the order. Whereas with shipping, that wouldn't matter so much. And then once we have these customer profiles associated with a user, we have room then for an address book module to come in and let a user specify which one is my default address or which one is my default shipping option or whatever. So This is how the breakdown of all these different entities then sort of ties together. We're using products and line items and orders and then referencing them all between each other. Has anybody here used the node reference module? A few hands go up? Okay, cool. But it's the same idea. With Drupal 6, there was a module that would let you reference one type of node from another node. And so I used this on a website that was doing online learning to reference an author's bio page or a speaker's bio page from his lecture page. And so I had two different node types, a lecture node type and an author bio node type. And this lecture node type had a node reference field that would let me say this node is related to this node. And then I could display that as a link. So on my lecture page, I could have a link that would take the user straight over to that author's bio page where they could read more about him, what are his credentials, what other lectures does he have on the website. And so sort of take this concept of referencing one thing from another thing, and in Drupal 7 we can then reference from a node a product. So if I define my products in the back end of my website, I have a product reference field that says this node sells this product. And then instead of displaying it as a link, I display it as an add to cart form. So that on a product node, you can add a product to the shopping cart, and that goes through this whole process of creating a line item and orders and everything else besides. Hopefully that'll make more sense whenever we demonstrate it here. Jumping into this slide, we take these core entities and fields and bake them together into some very simple systems. So the first system that we have here listed is the product pricing system. This is going to let you take a product, and whenever you display that product to the user, to find out what you want to find out what their actual purchase price is for this product. So every product has a base price, but maybe that user has a role that gets a 10% discount. And maybe it's 3 months before the event happens, so they get an early bird discount. And so on and so forth. Maybe they're coming from the UK, and so they wanted to see the price displayed in British pounds instead of in US dollars. All of these product prices before they're displayed to the end user will be processed through the rules module, which is a really major contributed module for Drupal that lets you set up conditional actions. So instead of just like a trigger and an action like Drupal has in core, if the user registers to send an email to somebody, you can have a more conditional-based workflow where you can say, well, if I'm calculating the price of this product, then if the user has this role, discount the product 10%. And so you can it's basically a scripting language built inside of Drupal with an interesting user interface that will let you craft these product pricing rules, as many as you want, to interact with the products when they're being displayed or when they're being added to the cart, to make sure that the user always sees the price that's their current price for that product. So I'll show how the product pricing rules work here in a second. Additionally, we have the basic shopping cart scenario where you add products to your cart. Yeah, yes, question?
That product pricing is based on the standard rules module, or is it a custom made?
Yes, it's the contributed rules module by Fago. So,
okay.
Yeah. So then the shopping cart is also integrated through views. So whenever you, let's see, how should I explain the shopping cart? Whenever you click an add to cart button, has anybody here used Uber Cart? Is this in the back of your minds? Okay, so Uber Cart maintained a collection of which products are in your shopping cart, and it was like this pseudo order object. It wasn't really an order. You didn't really have all the context data that an order might give you. And so with Commerce, what we're doing is whenever you add something to the shopping cart, a new order is created right then and there. And this new order will be in a shopping cart status so that on your reporting on the back end or in your views of lists of orders in the back end, you won't see all the shopping cart orders cluttering up what you need to see as completed orders. But you do have an order from the start to finish. So as soon as something goes in the shopping cart, an order is created, and that product is put on there in a product lineup. As long as that order remains a shopping cart, your product prices will be recalculated every time the order is loaded. And that's important because you don't want somebody putting something in their cart and then coming back a year later and buying that, and the price will change and you losing money and all that. Or if they log out and then log back in, they should see different prices. So again, this price is always the current price for that user right then. If they were to go purchase that order, that would be their final purchase price for the product. We use views for the shopping cart to display the cart block, and then also to display the shopping cart form. So we were able to get pushed back up into Views 3, new functionality that lets you define views fields that when included on a view will turn the whole thing into one big form. And so I'll show that the shopping cart form is editable. You can add new elements to it. You can remove stuff that doesn't need to be there. For example, if you're selling unique pieces of art, you wouldn't need a quantity box because every time somebody buys it, they're just buying one. So you can just remove that just through views only. So that brings a lot of flexibility to the shopping cart system and displays. The checkout system is now a drag and drop checkout form builder. But just like in Uber Cart where we had this idea of checkout panes, we still have that, but now you can actually alter the checkout form if you want to. It's a lot easier to work with that from an API standpoint. And then there are also some sort of magic checkout panes that, like, if you wanted to collect different customer billing information, all you have to do is add a phone number text field to your customer profiles, and that will automatically propagate through to the checkout form and to the order form on the back end, and then it'll be rendered for display just through Drupal's field system. So a lot of these things are more interconnected and more flexible just out of the box. And then of course there's payment, which lets you handle off-site payments, on-site payments, administer entered payments and everything else. So I'm going to jump out of the demo. I'm not actually going to use this demo site. You can feel free to go there if you want, but I didn't know how the internet was going to be, what our situation was going to be here in the event center. So I have a local site that I'm going to use just to walk through from the front end to the back end, what it's like to shop on DrupalCommerce, what it's like to set up products on DrupalCommerce, and to administer orders and everything. So bear with me, I'm going to be sort of hunched down here over this table. Let's, oh, we can move it now? Hey, sure, that'd be cool. Well, you know what, we'll just keep going, yeah. I don't want to hold out things too long here. So, what you're looking at is Drupal 7 with the Bartik theme, and then with the commerce dependencies, so that's views, CTools, which is a dependency of views, and then the rules module, the entity module, and the address field module. So you have to have all 5 of those modules in place, and then you put commerce on, and this is Commerce 1.0 Beta 4, which I just packaged up last night. We've been sprinting this whole week here on DrupalCommerce, and we were able to put in a lot of good, long-standing bug fixes, and then also some API fixes to make it a lot easier to work with from a developer standpoint. And so that's just brand new. If you're going to start a new site today, you won't have to worry about anything, but if you're already running DrupalCommerce and you need to do the update, then be sure to read the release notes on that Beta 4, because I would hate for somebody's site to break because your dependencies weren't up to date or anything. So what you see here is, first of all, a custom view. So this is a grid view of node teasers. And these nodes, product 1, 2, and 3, are what I call product display nodes that have on them a product reference field. And so they say on the back end that the node for product 1 is selling my product 1 on the back end, and so on and so forth. If we were to look at my list of products, you can see where I've defined the products in the back end, each one having a unique SKU, each one having a price, and then these also have image fields and of course their own titles. And this information is going to be injected into the node when it's displayed. So the product reference field says that my node 1 for product 1 is referencing this product 1 here, and it gets rendered into it the image and the price from the actual product on the back end. So what this does is it lets you display the same product information in more than one place and carry with you the same price information, the same SKU, the same images, across multiple nodes. If you have multiple subdomains or different domains per language, you can still reference the same product data on the back end, but have a more flexible point of display. So this is what it looks like to reference a single product from a node. I'll go ahead and add this to my shopping cart. But then I also have here a combined node that references all 3 products. So I have here a product selector node that references, if we were to look at its edit form here, product 1, 2, and 3. So this is just an autocomplete text field that lets me start typing in a SKU or a product title, and it will save this and turn it into the add to cart form on the front end. That if you're just using one, it's going to show the add to cart button, but if you're referencing multiple products, it actually gives you a select list here. So I can choose to go to product 2, and that will dynamically update anything on the page that's different from product 1 to product 2. So I have a different image, so that gets swapped in, and I have a different price, so that got updated. We'll go to product 3 here. You'll forgive me, this is one of my favorite pictures of a praying mantis killing a hummingbird from a hummingbird feeder. We'll add that to my cart. Alright, it's not as cuddly as the wombat.
Does it come with all three?
What's that?
Does it come with the feeder and the mantis and the hummingbird?
Yeah. It's a product kit, yeah. Build your own terrible scene. So you can see then that the product that was added to my cart is actually product 3, the $30 thing. But it goes one step further in that if you're referencing products that have field data on them, the add to cart form will then use that field data to create an UberCart style attribute select list. So let's go here to my attribute selector. On this demo side, I have 2 different product types. Just the default product type with no additional fields except an image field. And then I have a t-shirt product type where I've added onto it a size field. And because each of the products that I've referenced from this node, which we'll go and look at those SKUs here, are shirt 1, small, medium, large, and extra large, because each one of those products is of the t-shirt type, Commerce knows that that product type has a field that can be used to construct a sort of more intuitive product select list. So instead of listing out, the 4 t-shirts by product title, it'll let me pick the size as though I was, entering the size on the back end. So it uses the same data from the widget that I used. I feel like I'm maybe just using some terms that another movie's familiar with. Does anybody know what a widget is? Is that familiar when it comes to fields in Drupal?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the same widget, the same select list that I would use on the back end to create my products, is now presented to the customer for them to specify which product they actually want to buy. Now these all have the same image, so nothing actually gets updated, but just for the sake of demonstration, the X large is $1 more, whatever. So however you need to have different different changes to the price or the images or maybe the other field data. Maybe it's just informational, maybe people are selecting so what was my example? I used to sell restaurant equipment online, and so you could select a bigger bin size for your ice maker, but that might require a bigger head, and then that might require different electricity from 120 to, what's the opposite, 240?
220.
There we go, okay. So you can update all the different information on the page as long as you have that data in fields on your product type. So additionally, let's say that I was selling the same t-shirt in like red, green, and blue, small, medium, and large. Well, then I would have to have one product in the back end for each combination that I want to sell. And the add to cart form will know to only display the color options available for that size. Or say if I picked the red shirt and only small and medium are available in red because everything else is out of stock, well then the select list will only show the currently available options to you. So you have dependent options here, you have option images that are dynamic, prices that automatically update, all through this one sort of like really super magic product reference field and the add to cart form display formatter. So if I were to look at, for example, my node setup here under structure, content types, my product displays fields list, you can see that my product display is just a basic node with a single product reference field. The widget, so what I actually type in to reference the product is an autocomplete text field, and then the display is an add to cart form, which has its own little settings here. This is new in Drupal 7. You can have settings for your display formatters. So I could say to display the quantity widget, update that, and save. And then when I close, you'll see that my add to cart form has now been updated to include a quantity selector. So we'll take 5 medium tie-dye t-shirts, and there we go, they're in the cart. So you can see here that the actual product title that I had for this was medium shirt, but whenever I select it, I'm actually just choosing it by the field option instead of by the title like it was in that first product selector. All right, so that's sort of the guts of building products, product types, adding stuff to the shopping cart. As I mentioned, this shopping cart is a view, so if I needed to change something about the way the cart block worked, I just click Edit View and then go and change it to whatever I want it to be. One example in UberCart was there's a module that turns the cart block into a sort of product slideshow. So it actually uses product images in the cart block, and you have a page on the bottom to sort of page through the contents of your shopping cart. Something like that is totally doable now just by changing this default view. And as I mentioned, if we go look at the cart, the form itself is a view now. So that if I don't want the quantity box, if I don't need the remove button or something, and once you're committed, you have to buy. Well, then I can just edit this view and take away any column or add any column that I want to be here. So a good use case for that might be to add the product image, right here, so you can see the image because maybe people are buying whatever, something that they associate with the actual image and don't want to read the product title because people don't read stuff online. All right, so now I have this shopping cart. I can go through the checkout process. But before I do that, let's go ahead and look at the pricing rules. I mentioned that we're using the rules module to set up product pricing rules that can handle anything from discounts to currency conversion to taxes to everything. It's all funneled through this one central product pricing rule system. So under the store menu here, I would go to configuration, and then from here I would select my product pricing rules menu item. And that's going to show me sort of a subset of all the rules in this website. Excuse me. So with rules, like there are a lot more rules on this website right now than just these three. But with rules 2 and Drupal 7, I can sort of filter out and embed just a subset of all the rules onto any page on my website. So here I have sort of copied the whole rules UI here just for product price calculation rules. And so you can see here these two default ones are for calculating taxes of different types. Obviously, I actually don't have VAT on this website, so I could disable that one if I wanted to. It doesn't really matter because it wasn't doing anything, but there we go. I've disabled that one because I don't actually have VAT. I'm going to enable this one. So I have a rule here that will double the product price for administrators. Let's go ahead and enable this. Confirm. And if we look at if I just look at this real quick, I can show you. Like I said, the UI is a lot, but it really is a full-blown scripting language, so it's really hard to simplify that too far. But here you can see that I'm checking first, does the user have the administrator role? And then second, the action is multiply the unit price by some amount, which in this case is 2. So if I were to close this now that this rule is enabled, you'll see that my shopping cart contents will update to double the product price because I'm logged in as an administrator. And of course, if I just go open a new incognito window, you can see that the prices are still, for anonymous users, $10, $20, $30, and so on. Alright, so let's come back here. Let's see, no, it's not right. This one. Oh, missed it. One more check.
Just a question, all of that is being done by rules in core on the node load when it's loading it up to display it in views?
No, it's whenever the order loads, so when the shopping cart order loads, it looks at the line items on the order, and if any of them are a product, then it'll recalculate that line item's price through this system. And I'll actually go in a little more detail in the nuts and bolts session later today with some code examples if you're interested. So if you have time to come back then, I can hit you up for more. We can just connect afterwards. But yeah, so it's reloading the product. Let's see. Well, yeah, I don't want to go too deep. Okay, so yeah, it's now double. All right. Just trying to avoid losing everybody 9 minutes before I'm done. So here we go on the checkout page. You see here I have these different field sets that represent the checkout pane. There's just a logical grouping of the type of information I'm collecting on the form. If you don't want field sets, there's just a setting to turn it off on a per checkout pane basis. That's part of the checkout form builder actually, so let's look at that. I go store, configuration, checkout settings, and you see here my drag and drop checkout form builder. Never mind the visual core bug. That's a Drupal thing, not a me thing.
Isn't it a Chrome thing?
So you see here that the different checkout panes that come with Commerce out of the box. You can drag and drop them, move them around as you need. You can use this to then make a single page checkout form. If you don't need anything on the payment step, if the price of the order isn't going to change from one page to the next, you may as well just drop your payment pane right into the first checkout page and just have boom a one-step checkout and be done. However, let's say that part of your order depends on an address. So if you're calculating shipping, or maybe you have locale-based taxes. On this side, I've set up a Colorado sales tax. So in that case, you still need to have payment on the second step where people can see their updated order total before they actually put in their credit card data. But that's the way the checkout form builder works. And just for the sake of demonstration, we will configure the cart contents and display this outside of a field set. Save. Notice you can use a different view for that if you want to. There's all kinds of fun little options in here. And boom, now the field set around it's gone. So I know a lot of people have really strong distaste for field sets, and far be it from me to force you to use them, especially if you're a themer. So here I'm going to put in my billing information. Notice here that the order total is, this is actually a field on the order, and it's just aggregating the total price of all the different line items on here. If there were additional components to this price, as you'll see in a second, it'll actually split them out. So let me put in my name. I have a question for people from Colorado. Was John Denver from Denver, or was he from somewhere else?
Virginia or something.
Virginia, man, that's disappointing. Because he's from, our John Denver is from Denver. So let's go ahead and continue here. Now that I have an address that references Colorado as my state, if we look here at the order total, it's going to split up and show me the subtotal, the sales tax, and the grand total at the bottom. Now what's happening is whenever taxes are being calculated, it's happening through the product pricing rule system at the same time that a price is being checked for discounts or fees or currency conversion. It's also calculating sales tax. So this tax is calculated on a per line item basis. And even though you can't see it in that total column for all the line items, it's $20 and then a sort of invisible, whatever the sales tax is for that, $150. I think I set it up at 7 1/4. So it actually knows, this line item knows that it's showing $20, but if you want to include tax, then you have to add the $1.50 sales tax for that. Same for the $60, it's going to have the $4.50, the $1.40, so that you end up with your final sales tax line here coming from the sort of hidden sales tax applied on a per line item basis. I could split this out if I wanted to. If I edit this view, let's just go here to my commerce line item totals, and instead of using the formatted amount display formatter, I'm going to use formatted amount with components. And let's see what happens. Apply. This is the new views user interface if you haven't used it yet on Drupal 7. It will shut down. All right. There you go. You can see that.
Wow.
All right. So that's what's actually behind the scenes in each one of these total price fields. So this is really important for international usage because sure in the U.S. you might be able to just take your subtotal and calculate your sales tax and tack it onto the order at the end. But really, taxes are applied on a per line item basis because you might be selling in Kentucky food and general merchandise. Food is tax-free, general merchandise has a 6% sales tax. Or if you're in Europe and you need to add a value-added tax, so that it's displayed, so that your product price is actually displaying the tax inclusively, you still need to know which part of the total price here comes from the actual product and how much of that is going to be your VAT that's already been pre-included in the price. And if anybody's building sites that require VAT, or I think Canada has GST or PST or something, and if you need to do value-added tax, feel free to come ask me questions afterwards, and I can sort of explain how it all works. But we'll skip over that because we've got 4 minutes to go. All right, we got a payment form here. I have on this website 3 payment methods enabled. Example payment, which just sort of comes with the core, and then you see credit card here, and then PayPal WPS. Credit card is actually coming from my authorized.net module. With UberCart, we separated out like a payment method from a payment gateway.
Yeah.
So you might install the credit card module and then install the authorized.net module that plugs into the credit card module. We've done away with that, and instead we've said that every payment service provided by a gateway is a different method. So I have for authorized.net, just credit card payment and e-check payment, and I might have customer information manager payment or something else. With PayPal, you'd have a different payment method for each one. So you'd have credit card, which would be integration with PayPal's Website Payments Pro. Then you have PayPal WPS, which would just be integration with their redirected service, and so on and so forth. So each payment method is actually enabled by a rule. So if we look up here at the top under my store, configuration, payment methods, I've done the same thing that I did for product pricing rules, and I'm showing here all my enabled payment method rules. So I use a rule to enable authorized.net based on any number of conditions I want. My example here is that the example payment method has only been enabled for administrators, because obviously I don't want just general customers to be able to come in, add a product to their shopping cart and use a fake payment method to pay me money. So if I get forward, I forgot about this.
It's twice the price.
Part here. Let's go ahead and put in the address. All right. So now if I were to look in here as just an anonymous user, you can see that all I have available to me are credit card payment and PayPal Website Payment Standard. The way that redirect payment works is that it's going to go to an intermediate payment page that from there I will be redirected to the payment service, and then upon payment completion will come back into the checkout process at the same point and then complete as normal. If you've used UberCart and tried to integrate with external payment services like that, you'll know that whenever you get to that payment point, you actually fork off from the normal checkout process, and you essentially end up with one checkout process for people paying on-site, and then a forked one that may end up doing the same thing as the on-site one, but it was really hard to ever really know for sure, and it was resulting in duplicate notifications and duplicate payments and everything else. So we really integrated or really designed the payment process and the checkout process to specifically support off-site payment methods. And again, that's really important for internationalization because the U.S. is really like the only market that really pushes to have on-site payment. Other markets are much more focused on external payment services. But the advantage here of using payment method rules to enable them is, first of all, you have conditional payment method availability. So you might have two different PayPal accounts, one for standard payments and one for micro payments. But also, that was a bad example. That was my second example. First example would have been maybe you have a different payment method for somebody outside of the U.S. versus inside the U.S. The other example is that maybe you have the same payment method using different API credentials. I could just clone this and end up with two different versions of my credit card payment. One using my account for micropayments, one using my account for normal payments. And I could just use conditions to make sure that only one showed up. So my micropayment account would be used for orders under $12, which is cheaper on PayPal for a micropayment account. And then my standard one would be for any order over $12. And so you could use this for marketplace scenarios where everybody has their own PayPal credentials and you just have to pick the right one to use based on the product and the order. There are a lot of other things you can do here by having such a flexible payment system. So that's just looking at the checkout process, payment, all this stuff in the front end. There's so much more I could show you, but the gist of it is that like all this functionality is there. It's working. People are building sites on it. These guys have built a great-looking donation website called ioby.org. I'll recommend that to you. And
No Wi-Fi.
Well, oh yeah, hey, that's right. I'm not even connected. Well. That's a great looking Drupal site you have.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The theming, the shadow on the theme. That's really cool. But they were able to take these core components and systems that we're defining and then sort of massage them into their business model of crowdsourced funding for neighborhood projects. So it's this website that just lets people contribute money to neighborhood-based environmental initiatives. So let's plant an orchard in this neighborhood in New York City. And so everybody contributes to it, and so it's donation-based. So people had to be able to specify their own amount that they wanted to pay. And then additionally, the site, whenever you get to the checkout step, it's adding a line of gratuity, so the website itself gets funded if you want to. You can remove that from the cart. So they have custom line item types, they have custom add to cart forms that allow for specifying your own price, and then of course they're tying in all these donations received to their products. So that on the product page you can actually see how much money has been collected for each initiative. So it's just a really fantastic system that showcases how flexible this stuff is and how much this is a framework or a toolkit. But then, the first website that was built with DrupalCommerce is just a traditional product sales site. And it's just some guys in Denmark that needed to sell furniture or something, and so they just threw up DrupalCommerce, built a product catalog using a custom view, and then they've contributed back shipping modules and codes, patches to core and everything else. And then the last example that I'll give is a website called Eurocenters, which is eurocenters.com with an R-E-S instead of an E-R-S at the end. And what they've done is like they've just gone really crazy and created a custom checkout workflow, a custom cart workflow, all based on the same system of products in the back end, but then instead of having product pages, you have this whole form that lets you drill down to the actual language learning course that you want to take in the country you want to take it in, with the additional additional accommodations or smoking rooms or personal tutoring, whatever else beside. You just build up your order using this whole custom form, and then they manage orders externally. So the commerce aspect is really just a light framework that lets them build a very custom application on the front end that then communicates with external systems in the back end. And so commerce is there and it's essential to their business. But the bigger story for them is what they built up around it and how it really functions as a conduit to get people coming to the website, putting in their information, and then funneling that out to every other system that they're integrated with to actually manage the commerce in the back end. I'm 2 minutes late, and I know I just talked like crazy for 30 minutes, but if you have any questions at all, I'll just sort of step out in the hallway and feel free to come pick my brain. I will be presenting again later this afternoon from a more developer standpoint with some code examples and more of the nuts and bolts of how the rules stuff is working and everything else. So if you want to come with that later, I'd love to see you. Otherwise, thanks for your patience and your forbearance, and hope you have a good camp.